Yeah, well, mostly I just didn't enjoy any racing games. They're pretty painful. There are a lot of barriers to entry. You have to go through, some silly scale of driving a front-wheel drive 100 horsepower car for weeks before you could actually drive something decent. And I'm too impatient for that. And I think a lot of people are similarly minded. And even when you got there, I didn't really think that the cars reflected any kind of real behaviour. So coming into Project Cars and with Slightly Mad Studios, who'd had a lot of good success with their early sim games. I mean, I think that they kept things. They were the forerunners of really realism in sims. But I guess it was useful to have a cynic and a skeptic on board, and we very quickly bonded. And we made some very big steps early on, because there are a few fundamental things. Basically, the sims of the early days were far too difficult to control. So people like me kept crashing them and looking. So they looked and they said, "Are you a professional driver, or do you just crash for a living?" Because every 5 seconds on the sim, I was in the wall, purely because the way that they worked, they were just too difficult, and the tyre model was far too punishing. And we addressed that very quickly to make the game much more user-friendly and a lot more fun. I mean, it doesn't make it easy, because still you're competing with people who are, the people on esports now are just on another level. The last second of a lap time is always going to be difficult to find on a real track as well as on the sim. So I think we've arrived at a really happy place where we all agree that what we've got is how it should be. It's just the same as real testing, and actually with the sim it can be much more obvious than in real life. But normally in a real racing car, by the end of the first lap, if there's a significant change, and with the sim we're often making quite big changes, until the end it becomes much more nuanced. If you make a big change on a racing car, I kind of know before the end of the first lap. We normally do very short runs on track, maybe an out lap and 2 laps, to assess a change, an aerodynamic change or something like that. So that's really a short space of time. I'm exactly the same with the sim, and I know very quickly if something doesn't feel right, and also if something's good, because I can, and we're not going to run out of tyres and fuel. I end up stuck in there for half an hour just going around, because it's just so much fun. So when we really get it right, you just enjoy it and just keep driving. But with the assessment side of it, I normally sit there with the computer open, making notes as I go, if something doesn't feel right, I try and tune the car to see if there's something simple I can adjust. With the settings, we have a vast range of suspension settings to try and cure what's going on or understand it better. But like I say, normally it's very clear which part of the car isn't right. I make the notes and throw it back in the system. And we have so many cars to test that being ruthless like that is really the only way to go, because you tend to have to get through quite a lot of new models and identify across the board what's going on. Well, the thing that's been a trend throughout the whole development process is when the car is sliding. And from old sim racing games and people who raced them, they believed that when you went beyond the limit, the car would spin, which eventually it can do. But between that, there is a grey area where the tyres are sliding and you still have some control, a bit like what we're doing here in Sweden on the ice. So we had a car that was very unfriendly, and the tyre would, once you pushed past the limit, it would want to spin out. Basically 3 months ago, they really unlocked this potential, and they were able to have a much more linear, progressive drop-off in grip, which made the cars a lot more fun to drive, frankly. And you meant you could make a small mistake and not just end up with the car in a million pieces. So that was the breakthrough, and it means that we're able to tune in a lot more aggressive turn-in, because now that we won't spin, you can really throw the car in with the steering. It means that you can drive the car into the corner on the brake. Again, all of this stuff you can feel a lot more intuitive with the way the tyre is working, so it's a lot more fun to drive.